So putting the pieces together of all of these things, we get relevance. And today it's all really about results, and those results need to be tied to the strategic agenda, as we've mentioned, and that's the environment that we're dealing with today. What really seems to matter is how well someone achieves results. And that's why the previous exercise of discerning the purpose and strategic agenda of your employer is a critical thing. Because understanding who the external and internal customers are, identifying their definitions of success, and determining their desired results, and linking or tracing the puzzle parts of relevance, that's what our task is. The following quote from the book Rework seems to capture the sentiment of many corporations and nonprofits today. When it says, we've all seen job ads that say 5 years of experience required. And that may give us a number, but it tells you nothing. Requiring some baseline of level of experience can be a good idea when hiring someone, but after 6 months to a year of experience, the curve flattens out. And there's surprisingly little difference between a candidate with 6 months of experience and one with 6 years. The real difference comes from the individual's dedication, personality, and intelligence. How long someone's been doing it is really overrated. What matters is how well they've been doing it. And that's really the crux of the matter for us in terms of the organizations that we're a part and for whom we work, is they're really not all that concerned about how long you've been in that position, but whether you're getting any results. And so if someone else comes in and can do it faster and more effectively, and they haven't been there as long, that's really what's going to, in the long run, speak words. So relevance is really finding the connection to aligned results. And the bottom line, seeing is believing. So one needs to understand the strategic agenda, to discover the measures of success for what one does, to identify the persons who set those measures, and where no measures clearly exist, or if additional ones are needed, create the measures and demonstrate their worth. But who defines results is the key thing. Let's move on to the next slide, Bruce. And the reason, okay, it wasn't coming up on my screen. There we go. To get the results which demonstrate relevance, one will want to continually and continuously monitor these 6 areas. And we'll say a little bit more about them as we go on, but just to kind of put them out there in front of you all at the same time may be helpful to you. We need to pay attention, focusing especially on our defined customers, both those internal and external customers, and identifying our shared interests. Again, asking that question, what do they want that we can want for them? And what do I want that they can want for me? To communicate, to identify what is important to say, being smart about how to say what we mean in ways that others can hear, because we may think that we've communicated very, very well, very articulately, but some people may need to hear it in a different way. And we may need to find other people who can speak in a way that those people can hear. Not just listen, but to actually hear and understand the meaning. To communicate, being smart about that, about how to say it. And then aligning, connecting the big picture of what we do and can do with what our employer, our stakeholders, and our customers value and expect. And then, as Bruce mentioned before, measuring and monitoring what we do with a focus on both financial and beyond financial return on investment. And by that, I mean that typically we hear people talk about ROI, which is return on investment, and they speak of that primarily in terms of financial terminology. And yet in the world that we live and serve, a lot of us work in not-for-profit organizations. We need to also look at the non or beyond financial return on investment, that it's not always about money, that it is also about relationship. It may be about influence. It may be about a number of things that are other than money, and to be able to isolate those and articulate those. To collaborate, developing relationships, partnerships with those shared interests that we have identified. And then to continuously solicit feedback in a variety of both informal and formal ways. And to do that continuously as we're going through, to make adjustments, to clarify things, to maybe move in a different direction because we find that people aren't understanding us in the way that we have thought that they would want to understand us. Let's move on to our next slide, paying attention to our customers. Well, getting the results we want requires us to pay attention, but first we need to determine, again, who our customers are, and we need to pay attention to that. Again, is it the organization of which we're a part, the board of directors, our supervisor, and or our direct clients? Probably all of these things. It's usually the combination, and it is often a delicate balancing act, attempting to minister and care for each one of these. Each of our customers have unique behaviors and personal or professional preferences, and it's helpful for us to take stock of them as they can inform us of what's important and valued. These behaviors and preferences can teach us what to expect to deliver. An example of this in my life was paying attention to a director of human resources that I worked for, not directly, but was my boss's boss. And I noticed that every time he gave a presentation, that he always used the same computer font with everything he did. He used Comic Sans, if you're familiar with that. And the first few times that I submitted something to him as a proposal or presentation, he would always have a few, 3 or 4 suggestions for improvement. But when I decided to take a chance and started printing everything that I presented to him in his favorite computer font, it was amazing. He never had any suggestions for improvement. I always found that very, very fascinating, and not that that was all that important, but it was a critical issue that helped me to communicate with him and to see sometimes the small things are really the important things that influence people. Whether they should influence somebody is really irrelevant at that point. Because they do influence someone, it does become a relevance that I need to pay attention to. Paying attention to seemingly little things of importance to our customers often reaps big results. Similarly, it's beneficial to listen to the stories that your constituents are telling about their successes. And in listening to them, we learn that their conditions of satisfaction, what I call their conditions of satisfaction, how they define effectiveness and success. And we can then determine how we compare with these descriptors and how we might be like them, and how the programs that we present and that we create for our customers become relevant to our constituents. Now, some will say that we're catering to the institution and not holding fast to what we are called to do, but I believe that we can remain authentic to our principles and our preferences and still be smart about our audience. If we initially clarify our intentions and our desired results, then our choice of actions will become easier to make, because where attention goes, power flows. So what is it that you want to portray? What is it that you want to manifest? What is it that you want to accomplish? And not just the statistics, but you can get something done, but in the process, alienate your customers and your stakeholders and your constituents. So look at how you go about doing these things, not just what you're doing, not just that you are increasing the contact hours with your constituents, but how are you increasing? What are you doing in terms of creating a relationship with them?